think is going to win this year's NBA championship in the bubble? For me, the answer is clear, and it's the Bucks. Primarily for one person. It is the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the best player in the world.
Beast.
He is literally a freak of nature, jokes intended. He is incredibly talented. He was the MVP last year. I think he's going to win it again this year, barring any nostalgia on LeBron's side. LeBron, he's kicked ass this season, but it's Giannis's award to lose.
Yeah.
Best record in the league, and definitely one of the most well-rounded teams. And last year, they struggled a little bit in the playoffs. We saw that. They had an interesting series with the Celtics, and then they met their fate. However, now they're playing with experience. Giannis hadn't played in the playoffs. Some of that team hadn't played in the playoffs. New coach, figuring out how to work in the playoffs. So now, there's some consistency. They have a team ready to face the playoffs. Giannis, can't say enough about him. He's 7 feet tall. He dribbles like a point guard, an amazing defender, and he's improving his jumper. We saw his three-point percentage rise this year. He's gotten a little more consistent. I mean, I think he had a game with 6 threes, which if you told me that last year, I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
He's now becoming more of a threat, and he's definitely a better shooter than Ben Simmons, but I think I am too.
The low bar.
Yeah, very low bar.
I like how they moved Simmons though, power forward now. That's a different topic, but
yeah, that's Sixers got something interesting going on there.
Very.
Yeah. Then we got Chris Middleton, dude. Chris Middleton is so underrated. He had a 50-40-90 season, averaging 21 points. He is probably the most efficient player in the league right now. He was an all-star for a reason.
Yes.
He plays really good defense. He can sort of space the floor for Giannis, but he doesn't get enough attention for the work that he does for that team. He's a really, really talented player, and he gels very well with Giannis.
Yes.
Then we got Eric Bledsoe. He is the nickname Little LeBron for a reason, or Mini LeBron, whatever you want to call it. He's built like LeBron. He's shorter, obviously.
Yeah.
He is a bull in a china shop. He's a disruptor on defense, but he can score perimeter, inside. I mean, as a Suns fan, I used to watch him dismantle teams and not get enough credit for it. And while he maybe doesn't have the same athleticism he had a couple years ago, he's still a top tier point guard who doesn't get enough credit for what he does for his team. Then we got Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez was an all-star center a couple years ago. He's never been a good rebounder, but then again, he has Giannis on his team to make up for that. But he is an elite scorer pretty much at every level. He's an incredible three-point shooter for his size. Very well-rounded. He, too, spaces the floor really well for Giannis. He's very, very talented. His defense is about average, a little subpar, but again, having Giannis on your team makes up for all of that.
Yeah, it fills all gaps.
Yeah. Then we have the shooters. We got Kyle Korver, Wesley Matthews. Obviously, Kyle Korver might be one of the best three-point shooters of all time. Wesley Matthews doesn't get enough credit for his scoring ability. So those two guys spacing out for Giannis is an incredibly great gift to have, to go alongside with the best player in the league. And then someone who really doesn't get enough credit for his role on the team and provides even more depth to a team that definitely is very well-rounded is Dante DiVincenzo. Sophomore season, he's averaging about 10 points a game. He's cemented himself as a very talented role player. I remember eyeing him in the draft. He was sixth man for Villanova when they won the championship. He basically won them the game. Yeah, he's a very talented guard, and he's showing himself to be a very versatile role player in the league. So I think with those pieces, they have the depth they need. They have the best player in the league. They have the shooting, even if it's not with Giannis. Mm-hmm. They have everything they need. They have the pieces in place. Mike Budenholzer, very, very talented coach. There's consistency now with him and Giannis. They've developed a very strong playbook. And with the best record in the league, I would have them winning. I would take them winning the title. I would bet bet my money on the Bucks.
No, I certainly agree with that. And I think all of Milwaukee is so excited for that team. And I know that because last week I was actually in Milwaukee. I went to Wisconsin to go visit some family, and everywhere you're seeing Bucks gear.
Yep.
People are just wait on the edge. You know, a lot of these small market teams, you know, when they get a beast, you know, like Antetokounmpo, the ability to what that brings them to. And I think everyone's excited from there. And I think part of me certainly does root for them. You know, my family's rooting for them. And for Milwaukee, for that city, I want them.
I'd love to see it.
I would love to see it for them. But, you know, after looking at everything, Bucks are certainly someone, you know, if I had to have a breadbasket of maybe 2 or 3 teams of who I thought was going to win, yes, they would absolutely be in it. But when you really break it down, I don't quite think they would win. And I do think they'll come out of the East. I think they're head and shoulders above everyone else. I don't think there are that many teams with a punching chance. You know, it would take the Sixers to be working perfectly, the Celtics to get everyone on board to really put up a fight, but I think they're coming out of the East. But I don't think they're going to beat this Western Conference team, and that is the Clippers. So I think the Clippers are going to win the NBA championship. I think they are built not only to win the NBA championship, but to win it in this unusual circumstance that goes on. So the first thing to think about is, why do I think so? Much like your answer was Giannis, I have to go, why are they going to win? Kawhi Leonard. Yeah. And we see this has happened before. Why did the Raptors win last year? Kawhi Leonard. They brought him all the way through. He made some of the clutchest shots we've seen. You know, he's done the same thing with San Antonio when he was with the Spurs before. And Kawhi Leonard is a monster in the playoffs. You know, he kind of sits back on autopilot a little bit throughout the season, and then he
robot mode
playoffs. And I think what's important is he doesn't crack under pressure. He gets the job done. And especially under these weird circumstances, you know, it's very easy to get emotional, get changed by things. You know, you're living in a hotel room, you're not able to see family. And that's very hard. You know, if you are in the championship here, you're going to be in that bubble for about 4 months. And that can take a toll no matter who you are, no matter how much money you're getting. It's hard. And luckily, Kawhi Leonard is a freaking robot. I mean, this guy has no emotion, doesn't feel anything, and I'm sure he just powers down at night, plugs himself in, and waits till the next day. I mean, this guy is built for strange circumstances. The world could be ending. This guy just stays focused. So I think they're oddly ready for that. And then almost more importantly, when it comes to the Clippers, and whenever you talk about Clipper basketball, especially right now, you got to talk about the depth. This could be the deepest team, one of the deepest teams that we've seen in really NBA history. I mean, think of not only that starting unit, but think of that second unit. You know, Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell are always fighting for that sixth man of the year. You know, they go back and forth. It is basically Lou Will's award, you know, they might as well.
It's the Lou Williams award.
It is the Lou Williams award. And I hope after he retires, they put him, I hope it becomes the Lou Williams award, because that
is the Lou Williams Jamal Crawford award.
Yeah, that's what it is. But they've got some other guys on the team too. You know, you've got Reggie Jackson's, JaMychal Green's, and the rest of the team there on that second unit. And when you really think about that whole second unit with Williams, with Harrell, with Jackson, with Green.
Morris, one of the Morris. Is it Marcus? Yeah. I think Marcus is. No, is it Marcus?
I think Marcus, they put him in the starting unit. So they've
one of the Morris twins are there.
Yeah, Marcus Morris is there. They throw him into the starting unit. But when you look at that second unit, you're like, that is a team. That could be a starting caliber team in the NBA. No, they probably won't in the NBA championship, but to have your second unit be at the same caliber of a starting team in the NBA is ridiculous. And then you think of that, sprinkling that with Patrick Beverley, Marcus Morris, Zubac, who they stole from the Lakers. It is unbelievable, the depth of that team. And when it comes to weird bubble circumstances, things like that, you want a deep team, especially trying to go far in really any championship scenario. And then one thing that I think is important to talk about is this quarantine, this bubble, this weird circumstance, I think this is going to play a bigger role than people think. You know, if some teams can't adapt to this, can't get used to the bubble, you could see them sink. And while other teams, you know, we could see one of those teams that didn't play too well, if their team can somehow find a groove in this bubble and that momentum takes them on, you know, the playoffs could look strange and get some teams in there. You're like, what on earth are they doing there? But
Like the Phoenix Suns, Calvin, right?
yeah, they're there. I think
They're
them.
not. They're not like that.
They're there in the bubble. I'm excited to see that eighth spot.
I just want to see them play. I know they're not making the playoffs, but
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of the Grizzlies and Pelicans battle that out, and that'll be interesting there. But as far as teams that have been helped by this, I think you could argue that the Clippers have been helped the most. And the reason for that is, first of all, everyone got healthy. So Paul George, man, we're not even talking about Paul George. We forget that we've got an all-star, like borderline
MVP caliber last year.
Just insane. I mean, last year he was the leading MVP vote getter in the kind of first quarter of that season, and I haven't even mentioned talking about him yet. So, first of all, we needed him to get healthy. If you guys watched Paul George in the playoffs last year, he did have that shoulder injury that was really hurting his game, especially in the final series that he had with the Portland Trailblazers. He was really struggling there. And as far as anything else, one thing that really makes this team work is that underdog mentality they have. So despite them being championship favorites really since the beginning, they've always thought of themselves as that underdog. And I think they've all got that dog in them. They're ready to fight. I mean, I remember watching the Summer League and Pat Bev didn't look AD or LeBron in the eye. Like, they are locked into this. They don't have any distractions going on. And I think right now, with there being so many distractions, you need a team like this. And Kawhi Leonard is also someone who really sparked a lot of conversations about taking rest days and taking days off, even when healthy, preparing yourself. And this happened. This is like a Kawhi Leonard dream scenario. So I think all things considered, I think the Clippers are built for this. They are a championship level team. They've got guys who have proven it. And going back to kind of your argument with the Bucks, and I was going to say the Bucks too when we first started pitching out this idea, but what really took me back was still Giannis is rather unproven in the playoffs, because they were somewhat the same team last year. You know, they really kept their squad together, and Giannis balled out last year and put up, you know, very similar numbers to what he's doing now, MVP numbers, obviously. And he really was stopped in the playoffs. I think the Raptors there really showed how you can stop a team like this. The 76ers did too. You know, you just set a wall for Giannis. You know, you put large people on them. You know, you get the Joel Embiids on him, and they're really able to wall him off. And in the fourth quarter or so, Giannis didn't look like Giannis a lot of the times, and they didn't win when they were projected to win. I think it was their final series against Toronto. You know, they won the first two and then lost all of them. And eventually that series was over. So I think Giannis just has to prove it in the playoffs. And that certainly does not need to be said for Kawhi Leonard. This would be his third championship with a another championship with a third team. And I think it'd be the first player to do this. And it's funny because him and LeBron are going at it. And I think all things considered, I don't think you can bet against the Clippers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to bet against the Clippers either. Obviously, I would still take the Bucks, but the Clippers, their tempting option, Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs is a freaking beast. He's a freaking beast. He's dismantled so many teams. He's beaten so many superstars. He's incredible. He's a robot with one mission in mind, and that is to win the championship.
Yeah.
And they do have depth. I do agree with that. They absolutely have depth. Lou Will is an incredible six-man. And I do agree that they are playing with a chip on their shoulders. They've been the little brother in LA since they moved there. So they're always overshadowed by the Lakers, even when they're better, arguably.
Yeah.
So definitely think that they have a chance, and I definitely wouldn't bet against them.
Right.
But I still, although he's not proven, he's now has another year of playoff experience. Giannis has dismantled so many teams during the regular season. He's made so many teams look like they are playing AAU and
Yeah.
playing against an all-star. It's just I would be obviously I'd be terrified to play anyone, but
Yeah.
I would be terrified to play Giannis.
Yeah. A
And
focused Giannis.
I agree. I certainly no doubt. I think getting out of the East. Sorry, Sixers can't space to save their lives. Ben Simmons.
Out of Philly.
Ben Simmons must smell horrible because anytime he's on the 3-point line, everyone stands 50 feet away from him.
Yeah.
JoJo is probably the best center in the league, but he can only do so much. When healthy, obviously.
Yeah.
Him and Jokic. Another topic of discussion.
Yeah.
Raptors lost Kawhi. Spicy P, he's great. Lowry's great, but they don't have the team they had last year, mainly because they lost.
Yeah, I mean, I think going on that too, we also remember, we were chatting about this last night, I believe, of what the games are going to look like, because I think there's going to be no fans there, and I think that will help some teams too, because the main thing that we're talking about here is that we haven't mentioned yet, but we have to because everyone talks about them, are the Lakers. The Lakers probably have one of the most favorable home court advantages when it comes to sound.
Absolutely.
I went to a game, it was last year sometime, just against the Orlando Magic, and the Staples Center goes crazy. Every time LeBron touches the ball, that is a hard atmosphere to play in. And had they played the Clippers, because I do think, obviously, the Lakers are going to have the number 1 seed going in, and, forbidden anything crazy happens, but they'll have the 1 seed, and if they were to play a series with the Clippers, it would be all Laker fans. So I think that's another way the Clippers were helped from that. And I think also the Bucks, as we talked about, they're fairly comparable in both circumstances, at home, on the road, so that could work well too. So I think it's just something that all this together is going to help both these teams. I don't see this whole bubble scenario really hurting either team from there. And I think losing home court advantage is going to hurt a lot of teams. It's going to hurt, obviously, the Clippers. And I think this isn't something that's obviously the Lakers, but also teams that have very hard atmospheres. You think of the Denver Nuggets, one of the hardest places to play, not necessarily on noise, but up at a distance there. I think also that will be a challenge, having to now play where everything's in a neutral field. So I feel bad for some teams because they did lose a nice home court advantage, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
There's certainly not going to be Drake heckling the players on the court.
No,
Toronto loses that, their number 1 fear monger, who makes fun of all the players while they're playing. But
yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, how intense things feel, because when you're watching NBA playoffs, and we've each been watching them for a while, there's a different atmosphere, even just sitting there watching. We watch a lot of regular season games. We watched a lot last year. We watched a lot of Suns games and any games that were on. And I think now it's, can you get that playoff atmosphere, or is it going to feel weird? And I think that'll be something that'll be interested. And then it just comes down to, what's the mentality? And I think when it comes to Giannis, that guy is focused no matter what. You don't hear any bad things about Giannis when it comes to focus. Working hard is not an issue for him. Getting distracted is not an issue for him. And certainly the same as Kawhi. So I think that's what you want in your locker room or in your hotel room, no matter where they are these days. So it'll be interesting.
All I'm saying is last year when Fred VanVleet had a child, he went,
Yeah, he went like God mode after that.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is that Giannis had a child this year.
That is true.
I don't know if history repeats itself and Giannis pulls. If Giannis can be as good as Fred VanVleet,
that's not something you think you say.
I don't think I would ever repeat that again.
Oh man! All right, sounds good.
Basketball back, man. I'm hoping
just getting sports back.
Yeah, what I'm hoping the most from this bubble is that teams, especially the teams that have the least chance of making it, they start experimenting. This is such a small sample size. I want to see players maybe go outside the comfort zone. Players who don't normally shoot threes start shooting some threes, see your capabilities, test it out. I mean, if you're not going to make the playoffs, it's 8 games.
Yeah.
Test it out. This is like a little vacation for a lot of teams. Obviously, some teams don't belong there. They're not winning it. The Suns included in that discussion.
Yeah.
So experiment, test out. Let's see how this is going to work. And let's get basketball back.